wellnesscouch.com, streaming wellness into your lives.
Welcome to Nourishing the Mother, featuring your hosts Bridget Wood and Julie Tenner.
Hello and welcome to Nourishing the Mother. I'm Bridget Wood.
And I'm Julie Tenner, and today's podcast is the age-old question, is Santa real? And we just want to put a disclaimer before we start this week's episode. You know, we normally use language, so it's not that type of disclaimer, but if you have any little ones listening in the car, then it might be an episode to flip over and you listen to quietly on your own before you decide if it's something you're introducing them to or not.
Yes.
So if you've got little ones, switch it off and come back to it. If not, continue on with us. Which, actually, I've forgotten to do my usual thing. I'd love to remind you to jump onto nourishingthemother.com.au and sign up to join our tribe.
Yes, please.
It's just a drop in of your email address, and once a week, hopefully, we do our best to get an email out to you that just has links to everything we've put out in the world, has a little picky something fabulous that we've done in our week or something that we're loving on, and we just think that you might too. So to know us a little deeper and share a little more love through Nourishing the Mother conscious parenting journey, then please jump on nourishingthemother.com.au and join our tribe. Okay.
The juicy one. Is Santa real?
Yeah.
How do we answer this question?
Well, I kind of thought there's a few ways to go with this. So I had a really interesting conversation with my son just this weekend, just gone.
So your son is 12, nearly 13.
12, nearly 13. Yeah. And so I kind of thought, one, I want to maybe talk about that story. And then I wanted to break down a little bit perhaps how, or ideas on how to handle this question with your kids, or just more a philosophical discussion about what it means to believe in Santa. Or
I'm really excited about this topic because I can clearly recall having this conversation with you when Lola and Hugo must have been about 8 months old.
Yeah.
And we were talking about this conscious parenting, desire to be honest and truthful with our children versus wonder and magic. And so I'm looking forward to entering into this with you because I think there's lots of wisdom to be gained as we hash it out. So maybe we begin with story and go from there.
Yeah, we totally can. And then I just want to say I wanted to wrap it up with what I also think is etiquette, no matter which side of the fence you choose to jump on.
Yes, that's an important piece.
I think so.
I think
it's respectful.
I can still remember some bloody grade 2, like
I know.
when I was in grade 3, like trying to ruin it for me.
Oh, earlier, kinder.
Really? Kinder?
Oh, I've had some ruiners around. Well, I'm really, that's a really harsh word. I travel in alternative circles.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of hashtag truth bombs. And I just don't know that that's respectful.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just want to hash that out too. All right. Oh, I can feel my tummy turning even as I say this. So my son is 12, nearly 13. And my husband and I have been watching him with curiosity over the last couple of years going, really? Do you still believe? We're not sure. Think you do. Nope, you definitely do. Okay. We just keep rolling, you know.
I can't believe that he still does.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so it comes on so many questions over the years, so many questions, all the usuals, and plenty of schoolyard, you know it's not real, you know it's your parents, blah, 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 blah. And they'd bring those questions home and we would just talk about it in terms of, you know, yeah, what do you think about that? And they'd come up with an answer. And I always wanted to be guided by where they were at, not where I thought they were at.
Yeah, because you want to answer them where their consciousness is rather than, you know, kind of entering in with a whole.
Yeah. So I never gave answers first. I always asked them a question first because that then gave me a gauge on where to go. So I think that's tip number one, is to not make an assumption about where you think they're at, because even with the super hard questions about, you know, well, how come so-and-so doesn't get presents? I don't know. Why do you think that is? You know, you want to kind of expand their sense of awareness and philosophy in the world, I think, before jumping in with your own. So that's largely how we kind of handled those conversations, and the age-old, if you don't believe, you don't receive. So do you want to believe? You know, and always conversations around just magic and faith And that is such a huge component for me of human growth and potential, is to believe in something you can't see, to have faith in something beyond what you rationally know is true. Because there are miracles that happen in this world every single day. The very creation of a baby is a miracle to me. The fact that those cells divide and form a human is a miracle. The fact that, you know, synchronicity and deja vu and serendipity, like, these are miracles. The fact that I can be a, you know, magnet for the thing that I desire is a miracle. And I just think there is magic, and you are a being of magic. And it is so important to me that, along with all of the learning that our children do, that they have an opportunity to learn they are magic, to learn how to see magic in the world, and to learn how to see and believe and trust in their heart and their faith for something that they can't rationally explain away. That is important to me.
Particularly when we live in such a rational culture, you know, such a, you know, most mainstream thinking is very like scientific and rational and physical and have to see it, and there's beauty in wonder. There's such beauty in belief. Yes. And creativity that comes when we're willing to wonder, not just know. Yes.
And so we also did every year those P&P video diaries. If you haven't done them, they're so good. They're these free, there's different paid versions, but there's free ones as well. And it's this fantastic email Santa letter version of, they have these pre-recorded and you add in your children's photos and details and things like that. And it comes up with this little video that's like an email from Santa. And it's just been the most fabulous thing we've done with our kids probably the last 5 or 6 years. And last year I was watching my son to kind of be like, this is like going to test the boundaries on do you believe or not? And the one that I picked for him, I ended up doing a paid version so that they could each have different email. There's just a stock standard one, but so they could each have a different one, so it looked real. So I paid for that. And the one that he had like has this bit at the end where they're going, Santa goes, "Let me go check your book, Heath, and see if you're on the naughty list or not." And he literally freaked out. Like the anxiety that he was bright red, he was jittery as he's like in this pause moment waiting to see, you know, the elves are dancing. Is it red? Is it green? Is it red? Is it green? Is it red? You know, and he was like anxious as, and I looked at my husband and I was like, still believes. You know, like clearly still believes. Anyway, there'd been a few times this year, so his 12th year, and a few moments. So the tooth fairy had forgotten several nights in a row. So like on the 4th night, he still doesn't have any money. And he stopped kind of caring about it. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. And, you know, wasn't getting quite as excited about things like the Easter Bunny. And, you know, I don't know, we'd talk about Santa variously throughout the year and I'd see him just kind of look in my direction a little bit longer. And I was like,
you're sussing me out.
So, yeah, exactly. Anyway, so we had my daughter's birthday dinner this week with family and we were talking about Santa, and I don't know, he just rolled his eyes a few times and kind of like smiled along, like this. And I probed him a little bit, but he didn't say anything. So him and I were going shopping this weekend for his graduation outfit, and the car is the most perfect place to have a conversation with a growing young man because there's enough distraction that you don't need to have intense eye contact, and it's a quiet, confined space where you can have intense communication. So I was like, so we're driving. I said to him, you know, I was just wondering if you might have any questions about Santa. And I looked at him, you know, as we paused waiting to turn into a street. And he looks at me and he goes, "No, why?" I said, "I don't know. Just wondered. I just had a feeling. I thought maybe you might have a question." Looked at him a little bit longer. Looks at me. "No, I'm good." And I thought, it's just like a game of chicken, you know, because I'm not going to say it first.
Yeah.
He has to say it first. And this goes on. I go, "You sure?" "I feel like you do." "No, I'm good." "Why?" You know, like it just went round and round and round and round. And I was like, I'm not giving in, you know, I'm not going to be the one that does it. And in the end, I said to him, you know, it's okay if you have a question that you want to ask me and you're not sure how the answer is going to go. And I don't think that the answer to that question would make any difference about whether Santa visits or not. I think that it's okay to ask any questions you might have. And I could see his face flushed bright red and he took a breath and, okay, is Santa real? Yes, like this, and he looks at me out of these eyebrows. And I looked at him, I took a breath and I went, here it is, right? It's like, no, it's Mum and Dad. And I just let the silence fall and I could feel his energy drop. And I could feel him flush and his shoulders kind of hunch over a little bit. And I was taken straight back to the moment I found out. And I don't know if you remember, Bridge, but I can literally place myself back there. So I'd love to hear your story because I remember being 6. So he's like twice my age.
Oh, my God, 6.
6. So I remember being at this enormous family function and I was hiding behind this like wing-back armchair. Not hiding, but just sitting behind it. All the adults were in the lounge room and I was sitting behind this armchair playing with this new little fandangle camera. You know, back in the day, you know, the wine ones, you know. And my cousin, he was probably like 19 at the time or something, came over to me and he's like, oh, Uncle Les, those cameras are fantastic. Where'd you pick that up? And I could hear my dad instantly say, but that was from Santa. That wasn't from my dad, right? But here I was hearing my dad talk about where he'd bought the camera from and what was so great about it. And I literally remember jumping up and being like, but Santa gave me that. And then that's how I found out. And I was completely crushed. And I had heard these stories over the years from many, many of my alternative, you know, lifestyle choosing friends about how awful and traumatizing their experience of finding out Santa wasn't real was. And so here I am seeing my son hunch and kind of
Crushed.
Crushed. Yeah. And I just let that sit for a little while, just let the silence be. And I just said to him, you know, some people can feel like they've got some really big feelings and really sad feelings about when they find out that Santa's not real. I'm wondering if that's going on for you right now. And he took a breath and he was like, nah, I'm okay. I'm all right. And I was like, okay, but still a little bit funky. And so I said to him, you know, I wonder, how was it that you came to thinking that he wasn't real? And he said, oh, I mean, friends had said stuff at school, but really last year I wrote a letter to Santa and I asked him very specifically for this one present. And Santa didn't get me that one present. My auntie did, and I never asked her for that. And I was like, damn it. Because I remember like outsourcing that list, you know. Can you pick him up this? Or can you pick him up that? You know, blah, blah, blah. And I thought, okay, fatal faux pas. If they write a list to Santa, Santa has to get that present. It can't like come in roundabouts. So funnily enough, it wasn't the fact of the schoolyard for him. It was that, because in his mind, he could rationalize faith away, if you like, the schoolyard stuff. So, you know, we talk a little bit longer about that. And then I just thought, I just need to tell you why, right? And I said, you know, pretty much what I said to you before, Bridge. I said, you know, Heath, it's really important to Dad and I that our children grow up with a sense of faith and magic and belief in everything in this world that you can't see. Because you are magic, and there is, without question in my mind, real bare dinkum magic in this world, magic that does the most miraculous, incredible things. And the way that we learn to see magic and be magic and believe in magic is to have practice at it, to learn how to see magic, to learn and be given the opportunity to believe in something bigger and greater and more magical than ourselves in our human form. And that is so important to us. And that's why we wanted you to learn about magic. And this is just one way that we chose to do that with you. You know, and I could see him sitting up a little bit straighter and tearing up a little bit and going, yeah. And I said, you know, now you're in on it. It's really important because you have younger sisters that we're going to keep up our expectation of this family is that we keep up the ability to help your younger sisters believe in magic as well. So what that means is you can't say to them, you know Santa's not real, it's just mum and dad. What that means is you string out what they believe in. You get excited about the magic that they believe in, that you are part of helping the people around you to believe and see magic in this world, because that is a gift. And that's what we wanted for you.
So beautiful.
You know, blah, blah, blah. And I could feel him softening and coming back, and it was actually really lovely. And we kind of rocked up to the shopping centre by this point, and we sat down and had a coffee together. And I said to him, you know, I happen to have my Santa list here. So I was wondering if we went and, because he actually loves shopping, if we went and found your outfit first and we had some time left over, would you like to be Santa with me?
Oh, that's so cool.
And he was like, yeah, I'd love to do that. And I was like, great, let's be in cohorts together. And then we just had the funnest time, like just the relief of actually not having to hide, the relief of talking it out and open. And, you know, it was actually just a really beautiful experience for him and I together. And we're kind of towards the end of our shopping experience, and he goes, okay, he's fully connected, happy, back again. I got a question for you. He goes, so, oh yeah, what's that? He goes, how in the heck did you hide all of those Santa presents? I said, oh, Heath, that is a Christmas miracle.
I love it.
And he just laughed. And off he went. And then he was all about talking about how we were going to keep it a secret and how we were going to hide the presents, because his sister's obviously daylight and his sisters were still up. And then we got home and his sisters were busy. And my husband and I were making coffee together in the kitchen, and he happened to sidle up because he's really smoochy when he's really connected. And so I put my arm around him and we kind of had like a three-way cuddle. And I whispered to his dad, we've just had a really important conversation about Santa. And Heath's in on it now. And I could see his dad just give him a big sigh and kind of squeeze him a little bit tighter and a big cuddle. And we just kind of had this moment together, and it was really beautiful. And I would like to think that that is a really beautiful way to transition through the magic of childhood into the creation of magic in adulthood. So that's my story.
I love it. And I love that continuous reinforcement of it creating magic and believing in magic and looking for magic, it makes it so much bigger than
faith.
Santa. You know, like Santa's simply the symbol for a way to teach our children to believe in magic. Whatever we want that, you know, magic to be.
Because magic's real.
Yeah, exactly.
But we have to have a tool, a vehicle for teaching and learning. And
it's such an age-appropriate and accessible tool to use for that purpose, you know. Like it's a really exciting and enthralling and, you know, full of wonder kind of a way to give our children that experience, because there is, I mean, I can feel into that magic easily, so easily, and put myself back there. And, you know, the fact that we can transport ourselves to that place that was so full of wonder for us and expectation and excitement and joy and, you know, I don't know, like I can feel into the full body sensations of the anticipation of Christmas. And I think that there's really something to protect and honour in that.
I agree with that. What was your experience of finding out?
So I remember being told I was in grade 3, so I was 9, being told by someone at school, this girl, Christy. But I didn't believe her, like, 'cause she was doing the same thing as mum and dad, but I didn't believe her. And then it must have been, I don't know, like 6 months after Christmas, 1 year. Must have been like, so I was 9. And I was just like looking through the study, my parent, you know, in the study in our house, and right up the very very top shelf, like almost missed it, but just caught my eye. The wrapping paper that Santa wrapped my boogie board in that I got that year.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when it all like connected for me. And I remember I can still feel that crushing disappointment, I think.
Well, and so did you traverse that on your own, or did you ask your parents about it?
I can't remember. I can't remember if I asked them about it or if I just, internalized it. I can't recall a conversation. I can just recall that moment of being in that room and seeing that. And I mean, I obviously already had an inkling, but that was what confirmed it for me. And I still remember it never felt as magic anymore. The magic wasn't there for me anymore because I knew. But I so love what you've done with Heath in terms of talking about, I mean, he's so beautiful that he gets to now be in on it with you and create it.
Really gorgeous.
And, he's got three sisters.
Yeah. And I said to him, you can come shopping with me again. I'd love to have a shopping buddy.
Yeah.
It was really beautiful.
So it just changes form for him and he gets more responsibility and it's wonderful. It's a really lovely way to transition.
It was a really lovely way. So I will say, though, in terms of etiquette, this was the next part to our conversation that I actually forgot and left out for you just then, was that I did talk to him about holding up his end of the bargain now that he's in cahoots. Yeah. Is that I said to him, and I framed it this way, you don't get to be the thief of joy and you don't get to be the thief of magic, because when you bust someone else's faith, belief and magic and you say something like, he's not real, Santa's just your mum and dad, you are literally the thief of that person's magic. And that's not okay. And he totally got it. And so I think that's the part that's missing from a lot of these conversations with our children.
And I think also the key too is because you're there's almost like a new privilege that he gets to experience now that he knows, because you're allowing him to be in on it. You're allowing him to play a role in a role that was previously inaccessible to him. So that comes with responsibility and gifts, and therefore he's getting something out of that. And therefore upholding his end of the bargain is to not, in a moment of nastiness with his siblings, let that come out.
Yeah, or friends. I said to him, this applies to the schoolyard, this applies to friends and family, this applies to your sisters. You don't get to be someone else's thief of their joy. You don't get to rob them of their joy, and you don't get to rob them of their magic. That is a line. And I still believe in that, because I can still, over the years, I've had so many one friend in particular, had many conversations with her because she didn't want to, in inverted commas, lie to her children. So belief in Santa was never an option. It was always the truth from the very beginning. And I'm more than happy to support a different belief to mine and to, move together on our jolly way.
Yeah, and accept that people are going to have different approaches.
Don't have an issue with it. But don't encroach on my family's belief system. So this child would, from 3 years old, this child's like, it's not real. It's just your mum and dad. Santa's not real. Why are they even talking about him like that? It's not real, like this. And it got to the point where I was getting angry about it. And I did say to my friend, look, this is not okay with me. I don't have a problem that you want to be in a completely reality-based world and not lie to your child with you. It's totally fine with me. But that's not my choice. And so I don't appreciate the it's not, you're not, your world is not.
Yeah. And her, I guess, by extension, her lack of boundary on teaching him to respect other people's beliefs.
So that was the conversation we had. And then she had that conversation with her child. And there were a few slip-ups along the way. But largely he started to understand this is where it's appropriate and this is where it's not.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a really key component to any of our children's behaviours, any of our children's growing awarenesses, anything that's different about the way that your family functions versus another family is it's totally cool for your family to do and be the way that you do and be, but don't make it imposed on somebody else's.
Yeah.
Know the boundaries of respect. And that's, for me, the really important part of this conversation.
Yeah, that's really important because people are, we are really accepting of totally different viewpoints, choices, and perspectives. But with those, with our choices, we also have responsibility. And that, I guess that is one of those.
Absolutely. So, I just wanted to maybe break down a little bit how to handle this question with your kids. And I'd kind of really love to hear your journey and stories and the questions that you're getting that are perhaps more complex and perhaps even, the philosophical questions like you were saying earlier around, but how do you rationalize, the starving children in Africa? Well, of course, Santa's not coming to them. So I kind of want to hear your story.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting for me, I guess, because I find my son asks, he is from the very young age, but why? But why? Like 5, 6, 7 layers deep. He needs to know, wants to know everything. And so this has been a challenging one because it is about, I love the magic and he loves the magic and we love to create it together. But when he gets really detailed about some of these questions, sometimes I really struggle about how to respond to them. So I talk a lot about like the tradition of St. Nicholas and, we talk about the North Pole and how the elves all work together and how, because he wants to know, like with the Lego factory, like do the elves like build the Lego? And I'm like, oh, well, like some things the elves build at their factory, but other things they have to go to special shops and they order it in and then they package it all up in their factory. Like this is the kind of detail that he wants. So, I really have to think on my feet about how I'm answering these things. And also where I leave the mystery to him, as you say, like, oh, do you think how do you think that they would do it? But I also know that it's not enough for him for me to just continually reflect back. He wants detail. And so far, it's been really sufficient for him. And, we get out our, our books every year. When we talk about Christmas stories and the magic of it. And I've really been able to come to a really comfortable place with, the truth of the fact that Santa's not real, but the magic of childhood and of entertaining their sense of wonder and and entertaining this idea of the conversations about Santa and presents open up so many more conversations about the joy of gift giving and of connection and of celebration and tradition and all of the things that the Santa. Because kids can get so focused on just being about Santa and just being about presents, but I think it's a real invitation with our children to look at where they can find the magic beyond simply what they can get, but what they can be part of creating and sharing with others. And so I tend to try to bring it broadly, like more broad, often when it's all about Santa and presents and stuff, is the meaning of Christmas and the meaning of gift giving and different traditions and how that looks, and in the northern hemisphere it's snowing and here it's summer, and imagine what different experiences children all over the world have of Christmas. And the hairy one is as he's becoming more aware of how different children live, like the starving kids in Africa, they don't get Santa, and I've kind of been able to not go to detail there, but I do wonder when that one will come up, and how to tackle that in a way that's not necessarily totally accurate, but also respectful of the fact that it's important for children to understand that they're not. I don't want to get stuck on the whole they're privileged thing and pushing them to understand to eat every bite and all that kind of stuff about understanding privilege, but also to recognise that children all over the world live really different lives and to understand all the different backgrounds that make up our humanity. So I haven't kind of nailed that one. Have you had experiences with how to deal with that? Like with,
I feel like I have, but I can't specifically recall, but I feel like we've had conversations of that variance before.
Or even what kinds of presents, you know, like does Santa give all the presents, or does Santa give just a couple? And do the parents give more presents, or, you know, like which? Like,
and different families have different experiences of Santa.
Yeah, and also like how to you negotiate it when Santa brings a plethora of presents for your kids, but the next door neighbours don't get many, or, you know.
Yeah, no, exactly.
And wouldn't Santa give the same amount of presents to every kid? Like, does that kind of come up?
Yeah, that's come up before. But largely to say, you know, Santa's really respectful and works around how each family functions. So Santa's aware that, you know, for our family to give a child a Ferrari would not fit in with what our family is about and how we kind of roll, and, you know, where we kind of even sit economically. So Santa tends to have a barometer for where your family is at economically, where they're at emotionally, socially, you know, in dynamic with each other.
So this is a conversation you're having with your kids as they're older, though, right? Like,
yeah, no, I would have this conversation with Lola as she's, you know, 5-ish. It's just that Santa works in with everybody's family. And then as we get older, that, you know, that expands into probably a more detailed sentence. Yeah. But just that whole concept of, yeah, you know, and this is part of magic. It can't be explained. It's not always equal. It doesn't always make sense. It's just kind of the way that magic is, you know.
And if you try too hard to understand the why of magic, it almost takes away some of the magic.
And sometimes you just have to leap off and believe. And that's just all there is.
Yeah.
Can you leap off and just believe?
Which is such a, like, you know, metaphor for so many things, right?
Yeah, right. So I kind of put it in context that way. And yeah, I feel like we've had conversations, because my kids are big documentary watchers, about, you know, how different families live and relate. And we just kind of talk about it that way, that Christmas is a really different experience for lots of people, and generally is also going to come from a Catholic or Christian based belief system. Yeah. And that's not everybody's belief system. And again, Santa is completely aware of that. And where we have Santa, they have a different version of magic.
And that's when you can start to talk about like Hanukkah and things like that.
Right. So I just still talk about it in terms of, you know, different families, and Santa tunes in with that. So that's magic.
Yeah. I love it. That's a great way to do it. What we haven't talked about is the whole way that Santa can be used by some people to, you know, go for punishment and reward kind of parenting tactics. You know, it can be very, very tempting.
Santa's not coming this year.
Yeah, Santa's not coming, or you better behave because Santa won't give you any presents.
Watching.
Yeah, or, you know, that whole elf on the shelf thing. And
I fucking hate that elf on the shelf.
Man, me too.
It's like an epidemic.
It is.
And I feel like all these people are like falling down around me to the elf on the shelf, and I'm like, what?
Yeah. I mean, I think some people like, use it in a really nice way, but I don't know, like I think it's kind of got this negative connotation. For me, I think it's just another way to control children's behaviour, and I'm not into that.
Me too.
So I think it's important for us to preface, or rather, like, it's not really a preface since we're at the end of the podcast, but to frame all of what we've said from a place of, you know, we really don't use Santa in any way on a punishment reward kind of spectrum.
No.
I don't at all believe that that's appropriate. Yes, it might be short-termly effective in terms of controlling, you know, getting an outcome from your child. But I really think that it tarnishes the magic, and, you know, it gets them to subordinate to some kind of authority. It reinforces that at a really young age, that someone's watching and someone outside of you is going to judge you if you don't do the right thing. And
it's coercion versus parenting from an authentic place and getting them to feel inspired to make choices.
Yeah.
I don't roll with it in a congruent or comfortable way.
Yeah. And I think, you know, if you're on this conscious parenting path, you would resonate with where we're at here, and also potentially bristle when you do get the questions like, you know, have you been good for Santa? Like, you know, we get, you know, of course people say that. And my son, like, because I've never used that, he looks quite puzzled when you know, when those questions are asked of him. And some of the Christmas carols will talk about being naughty or nice, and I'll be like, yeah, you know, like some people think it's okay that, you know, if you're naughty, you don't get something from Santa, but I really don't believe that. What do you think about that? You know, and really use that as an opportunity for him to connect in with whether that feels good for him or not.
Yeah. We joke about naughty now because there was a big, when I was in like conscious parenting play groups and whatever with my younger two, it was like you can't use no and you can't use naughty.
Oh, yeah.
And so I remember hearing for the first time out of my son and then my daughter's mouth the word naughty. Oh, this doll's being so naughty. And I remember visibly feeling like shocked and shamed.
But I don't use that word for you. Why are you using that?
Yeah, right. And, you know, having evolved so many years, now I'm like, it's just a word.
Yeah.
And the more we play with our naughty, the less it needs to come out to play in a really temptuous kind of way. So I tend to joke around with naughty and nice, like just make your games out of it, poke fun at it. You know, role play games where you're giggling about, you know, you're being so naughty right now.
My kids are doing that flat out at the moment with my husband, particularly. Dad, you're the naughty one. Mum's lovely. And like, you know, that whole role just shifts around. And so we just like ham it up and play it out all the time. And I think it just allows them so much release.
Totally.
Because even if they haven't, you know, been subjected to that kind of dichotomy, they're still surrounded by it in childhood, you know, whether it's stuff that they watch or people that they talk to. And so they're figuring it out.
Yeah. And I always have the conversation with my kids. Yeah, but we're everything. We're all naughty and nice.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're naughty, sometimes you're nice. Same for everyone.
Yeah.
You don't need to pick a side.
Yeah.
You just need to understand both have a place and both have a purpose. Sometimes you're naughty, sometimes you're nice. We're still learning.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter which way. You're still learning. I do have a story on that, actually. My mum worked in childcare for a number of years. And I remember her talking with me several years ago about this child that she was looking after in childcare. So this child was hard work for the parents. So it's that child that's dropped off at 6 a.m., you know, they're on the doorstep waiting while the, you know, staff before they've even opened the door, and they're the last parents to pick up at night. Like, this child's hard work.
Yeah.
And so, you know, mum always had a soft spot for this, in inverted commas, naughty kid. Anyway, so she's working New Year's Day or whatever it was, and this kid's back in there again. So his sister is home on school holidays, but because he's the naughty kid, he's too hard to handle. He's in childcare. So he's probably 4-year-old kindergarten, I imagine. And mum was talking to him, oh, you know, how was Christmas and what did you get from Santa and, you know, blah, blah, blah. And it turns out this kid got a sack full of potatoes and his sister got a sack full of presents.
You're kidding.
No.
Oh, that's devastating.
Because he's naughty.
Wow.
And I mean, my mum's not overly conscious, but I can even remember feeling her heartbreak at watching this child already box himself into the label of I'm a bad kid.
Wow.
And I just think when you box them there, where have they got to go?
Yeah. Yeah. What potential does that child see in themselves?
None. He's the bad kid.
And that will become self-fulfilling.
Exactly. So please rethink naughty and nice.
Yes.
And using Santa as punishment, I don't like it. That's
not cool.
No, it's not cool.
happy to stand on our soapbox and say that ain't cool.
I think it's time to wrap up.
I think it is too.
Give us a spiel, Bridge.
Yes. So, you know, we hope that this podcast has given you some different perspectives and, you know, maybe some different ways to enter into conversations with your kids and think about what kind of magic you want to create as we enter into another Christmas season. You know, I think as our children grow, every year we get a new opportunity, you know, to open up to finding the magic for ourselves so that we can bring it to them. Because we really have to cultivate that feeling within us, that desire to create and feed their sense of wonder with magic. And so do what you need to do to get yourself in that place so that you can awaken it for your kids and have fun with it.
Yeah. And I think if you choose not to do the Santa thing, there is no judgment whatsoever.
That's exactly.
But I would just say still consider how you can use other metaphors and other ways of learning to still communicate the sense of faith, belief and magic that does exist in this world.
Yeah.
That is spiritualism in whatever form you want to call it. That might just exist beyond Santa for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So please connect with us on Nourishing the Mother on Facebook and Instagram. We love your emails. We love your private messages. We love any podcast ideas that you want to throw our way. We're more than happy to answer questions. And what else? Oh, Transitions Toolkit. We've still got that if you're transitioning perhaps through one of these phases.
So hop on nourishingthemother.com.au for that one.
Yes, /shop.
Now to connect with you, Jules.
PleasureNutritionist.com.
And me at suburbansandcastles.com. Remember to nourish the woman to rock the family.
And we'll see you next week when we continue to peel back the layers on your mothering journey.
This has been a production of TheWellnessCouch.com. Check us out on Facebook and join in the conversation on Facebook.com/TheWellnessCouch. Subscribe to each show on iTunes and check us out on Twitter. The Wellness Couch, streaming wellness into your lives. Whilst the Wellness Couch presenter endeavor to provide accurate and helpful information to their listeners, these podcasts cannot take into account individual circumstances and are not intended to be a substitute for health and medical advice from a qualified health professional. You should always seek the advice of a qualified health professional before acting on any of the information provided by any of the Wellness Couch podcasts.